is number 3 in your receiving duos list?
So this is going to be a weird one, I think, but I have Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara at number 3. And the main thing with so this is just hard to rank, right? Because Alvin Kamara is a running back, but he can play a little bit in the slot. I don't think he goes outside too much, maybe a little bit, but out of the backfield, his receiving is incredible. I feel like he makes some of just the most spectacular catches, and the concentration required for them is great. And maybe it's just because of his after the catch ability, but I feel like anytime he gets matched up on linebackers, there's not really any linebackers that can keep up with him. There's maybe a handful, and that's being generous. But yeah, he really can't be guarded by linebackers. I think if you remember the Cowboys game, I want to say 2018. This was kind of the game that the Drew Brees was having an MVP type of season until this Cowboys game when they got shut out. And what the Cowboys did was they doubled Michael Thomas and they doubled Alvin Kamara, and they just said anyone else can beat us, but not these two guys. And I think that just goes to show, like, if you have two guys, especially a running back that's getting doubled out of the backfield, that is incredible. And then Michael Thomas, people call him Slant Boy. I think it's a funny name, but I still think he's a top 5 receiver in the league. He was injured last year. The year before, what did he do? He had one of the statistically best seasons for a receiver ever. And so that's why I have them at 3. And it might be a bit controversial here in the comments, but I like them a lot, and we'll see what they do next year when they're both healthy.
Well, I guess I'm going to add to the controversy because even though we didn't discuss this, I have Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara as the number 3 receiving duo in the NFL still. I think, yeah, Jamal brought up DJ Moore and McCaffrey. I did actually really consider them, and then I kept them out just because I think DJ Moore is just lacking a little bit as a receiver compared to the Mike Evans, the DK Metcalfs. Yeah. But I went with Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas. It starts with Michael Thomas. Again, he's still a top 5 receiver in the NFL. The slant boy nickname is hilarious, but
I love
it. The point is that no, he doesn't just run slants. He can run every route. He actually wins down the field better than more people want to give him credit for. But one of the most hidden and under-talked about storylines with the New Orleans Saints the past 4 or 5 years is the fact that Drew Brees has not been a good down-the-field thrower, and he wasn't a willing down-the-field thrower. And that hurt the Saints offense a lot. And actually, in my opinion, in the playoffs, the biggest reason the New Orleans Saints of the last 4 years didn't win a Super Bowl was because Drew Brees didn't play well in the playoffs. You go back, look at the Rams game in 2018. Drew Brees did not play well in that game. You look at the 2019 Vikings game. Drew Brees did not play well. You look at last year versus Tampa Bay. Drew Brees did not play well. The Minnesota Miracle game, Drew Brees had a very poor first half. Now, he picked it up in the second half, but he played poorly in the first half. So overall, that's 4 games that they lost that have been talked about for a lot of different reasons. And for whatever reason, Drew Brees, who did not play well in all 4 of those games, just was not attributed any of the blame. So I think that's one reason. So I think that's why maybe Michael Thomas's playoff production has slipped. So that's one thing. He's obviously a top 5 receiver. He's a fantastic route runner. He's got great hands. He's incredibly tough. Until this year, he was very durable. He used to play every game, and he would give you 9 catches, 100 yards, and a touchdown, something like that every single game. Alvin Kamara is a receiving weapon. Fantastic route runner. Great after the catch. Amazing balance. You brought up the Dallas game. What about the game versus your Packers this year when I think Alvin Kamara had 2 long touchdowns off screens? Alvin Kamara is incredible after the catch. I think that he's an absolute matchup nightmare, and it's because I think the thing with duo is that we're also talking about how these 2 players complement each other. And when you have an offensive genius like Sean Payton, and when he's able to put Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas on the same side, and it becomes such a mismatch nightmare for a defense because it's very difficult to double 2 guys on the same side. Just mathematically, it makes no sense because then you're forfeiting coverage everywhere else. So it's very difficult to do that. And because of that, I think the way Kamara and Michael Thomas complement each other is they complement each other in a better way than Godwin and Evans or Lockett and Metcalf, even though those 2 guys are incredible individual players. So for that reason, I think that Kamara and Michael Thomas are the 3rd best receiving duo in the NFL. Shocking that I'm actually shocked that we both had this because I expected you to have them lower on this list or if not on this list, but I think it's funny that we both have them three.
And I guess it's a fair point because I guess a lot of Kamara's receiving production maybe isn't off killing people on routes, and it's more of him after the catch, and that's a fair statement. But if you have two guys that you want as a receiving duo, one of them's a top 5 receiver in Thomas, but not like I said, like linebackers cannot really keep up with Kamara, and Drew Brees was peppery. He would just pepper Kamara, and being like ability after the catch is part of being a receiver, being able to create. And so that's where you do have to factor them in there more so than other guys who maybe aren't as special as he is after the catch. Because after the catch, I don't know how many people are better than Alvin Kamara. There's not too many.
Forget after the catch, his route running is wildly underrated. I've seen Kamara beat corners. I've seen Kamara beat safeties. I've seen Kamara beat linebackers on conventional routes. I've seen him line up as a split end. I've seen him line up as a flanker. I've seen him line up in the slot. I've seen him do every single thing. He is an absolute receiving weapon. Now, the comment section is having a nice debate on Kamara versus McCaffrey. And I think maybe as a receiver, I would give that edge to McCaffrey.
I'd go McCaffrey.
The 1,000 season, and I would give it to McCaffrey, though it's very close. The distinction here is I love DJ Moore. I think when we do our underrated receivers, and after we did our underrated quarterbacks today, I will probably say DJ Moore as my underrated receiver. He's not as good as Michael Thomas. And that's where the distinction to me gets made.
Not even close.
Because I think Michael Thomas is better than Mike Evans. I think Michael Thomas is better than DK Metcalf, who I both think are top 7, 8 receivers in the NFL. And then when you add in Kamara, who I think is borderline, at worst, the second best receiving back in the NFL, you consider how they're used, how they complement each other. To me, it makes total sense as to why they're the third best receiving duo in the NFL.
And this list is kind of weird too, right? Because we're going receiving duos, not receiver duos. Because if it was receiver duos, like Kelsey and Hill wouldn't be on here because Kelsey's a tight end, and we wouldn't have mentioned George Kittle, and we wouldn't have mentioned Kamara. But it adds another element of just, I think, complexity when you do have to factor in, this guy's a tight end and he's not going up against corners every play. He could be going up against the safety, or this guy's a running back. He's not going up against Jalen Ramsey. He's going up against, your linebackers or your safeties, or in some positions corner, because you need someone who can guard him. And Kamara is just that special.
Yeah, and the thing, right, we're talking about just your ability as a receiver, right? So you brought that up perfectly. I think that's the perfect point. Like, I understand that Kamara, isn't the receiver that, say, Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson are as raw receivers. Yeah. But in terms of his ability to produce as a receiver, he produces damn near close to what they produce. So, like, then when you look at what Michael Thomas produces and all of that, to me, it just, I don't know. The comment section, my guys are taking it a little hard, but sorry, guys. I guess Blake and I see eye to eye on this one. The third best receiving duo in the NFL, in our opinion, is Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara.